Ralph, you're a veteran of World War II, and let's go back now and let's talk about events leading up to your entering into the service. What were you doing at the time? Where were you living prior to your going into the service? So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I was living at 93 Commercial Street. I think I was still in school, Central High School. And before I went in, it was all talk about the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor, and this sort of got us all going, all wanting to enlist into the service. And I was one of the ones that went in early. I didn't wait for the draft, really. I had to register for the draft, but I didn't wait for it. I went in a little earlier. And I went to Texas for training. And it's comical how I got the name Martire, because my family all say Martire. I say Martire because when I was training in camp, the sergeant was always yelling at me, "Martire, get in step." So I picked up the name. For some reason, I start calling myself Martire. And till today, I still call myself Martire, remembering my old sergeant.
You selected the Army.
Yeah.
Any reason why the Army?
No reason really. At first I wanted to be a Marine. I wanted to join the Marines, but I went into the Army, which was okay with me. I started my training at Camp Barkley, Texas.
Camp Barkley, Texas, training for, what were you?
Infantry training.
Okay. And at the same time, did you have any other family members also in the service?
My brother Frank was in the service.
Talk a little bit about Frank.
Frank went into the Pacific. He landed on Guadalcanal, and he was wounded there on Guadalcanal. He lost part of his leg. He came home, but he's no longer around. He passed away.
So getting back to your training now was in, you said in Texas was your first training?
Yeah, Texas.
So you had your infantry training.
Infantry training in Texas. And then we went to Louisiana from Texas. And then from Louisiana, we went to California desert to get desert training. And I guess that was all the time we had. We shipped to New Jersey. From New Jersey, we went to we went into Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then from Fort Dix, we went to New York to get aboard the ships that were going. We had to join the convoy going overseas, and we landed in Birmingham, England. And at Birmingham is where we were taking our training for D-Day landing. But we didn't know what we were going to do. It was just training, as far as we were concerned. Then from Birmingham, we got our orders to ship out, and we went to Liverpool and got onto the ships. And we sat in the English Channel for 5 days, waiting for our orders. Then finally, General Eisenhower made his speech saying that June 6th, 1944, we were to land in Normandy. So our outfit landed at Utah Beach on D-Day.
When you said landed, were you one that went into one of those
landing barges?
Landing barges.
Yeah.
And talk about that experience. There must have been a
well,
lot of noise. And
well, there was a lot of. We were very quiet, no noise. We were very quiet because Everybody was thinking their own thoughts. But to get on the landing barge is what scared me. You're so far up on the ship, you got to climb down those ladders with all your equipment on you, and you got to step down the landing barge to get onto the landing barge. And if you got to the bottom, if you didn't wait for the waves were so bad, if you didn't wait for that barge to come close to the ship, then you jump. And if you jump too soon, you got crushed. You know what I mean? So that was something that scared us very much.
And you mentioned that the sea was pretty rough.
The sea was rough, yeah. The English Channel was very rough.
So as you're going in, can you see anything when you were going toward the shore?
No, you don't see anything. You don't see. You saw a lot of ships and a lot of men going ashore, and then when you start landing, when the landing barge goes down, and you have to start running out, that's when you realize you're being shot at, because all of a sudden you see some of your men falling into the water because he got hit. And we got to the beaches, and you crawl, and you can lay down, you crawl. I laid down next to a man who was been hit. He was dead already, and the shells that were coming were hitting him more. That's how I missed those shells. But you start crawling, and then you get up on your feet, and you're able to move faster on foot. And we pushed our way in with all the firing that was going on, all the shells that were exploding next to you, the machine gun fire, and everything. Oh, it was you can't even explain it, really. It was too loud. And we finally got to where we got some high land and some cover. And then after that, we moved into the hedgerows, which were...
Well, just before we get into the hedgerows, so from the time that you landed on the beach until you... What did you do? Reassemble your outfit at...
Well, we were all together, really. See, everybody that landed, they landed together with their company. And we were all together. And we were spaced apart, though. But we were close enough together that when we hit the high ground, where we had cover, we got organized. And then we started to move inward.
Now, had you suffered casualties at that point?
Oh yeah, we had casualties all around us. Men were dropping like flies. They were wounded, you know what I mean? Some got killed, but a lot of them got wounded. And shells popping. I saw one guy, his arm go flying off him, you know? So he got hit with shrapnel bad, and his arm just went the other way, but he fell down yelling, you know. And other guys that got hit yelled when they got hit, but then when they lay down, that was it. They died, because there was the medics were not there at the time. The medics came up after and start picking up the wounded and trying to save them, you know.
Did you encounter the enemy? Did you see the Germans at that point in time?
We could only see pillboxes and firing that was coming from there. That's all we could see. And we knew we had to take those pillboxes. They were all, you know, they were in cement encasings, and they just had a slit where they were firing machine guns from. There were no German troops outside. The pillboxes were defending the beaches. When we passed those pillboxes, that's when we start meeting the enemy. And then we got into the hedgerows where we had to, we'd be in one hedgerow and the enemy would be in the other hedgerow, which the other hedgerow was about 100 feet, a football field of open space. We had to go in that open space to crawl and get to the enemy that was in the hedgerows firing at us until we can get some tanks in there. And the tanks were able to plow through and make openings for us. And that's the way we took over the hedgerows. Then it started where you'd be chasing the German armies that were running backwards, you know what I mean, to fall back. And as they fell back, we were just following them, firing at them, and then starting where we come into the towns. We were scheduled to go into Cherbourg, and we had a rough time getting into Cherbourg, believe me, but we finally took it. And Cherbourg was at the end of the peninsula. Then finally we start hitting the hedgerows. And when we hit the hedgerows, that's when we were losing a lot of men. A lot of men. But the hedgerows were not too long anyway. We fought in about maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. And finally ended the hedgerows. But in that open area, we lost a lot of men. A lot of men.
Were you injured?
No, not that time, no. I was very lucky. Until when we came to Thionville, that's when I got hit with shrapnel bad. I was taking the fellas back, and you got them back. They were wounded pretty bad.
Now this is when you received your first of 2 Bronze Stars.
Yeah.
Am I correct? And talk to us about what happened at that time.
Well, I don't know. It's hard. What happened was, you're not thinking of what's going on. You're not thinking you're gonna get hit. You're thinking of saving the fellas that are laying on the ground hurt, and you check them, you pick them up, you put them on a jeep. You had a jeep that you're able to get to, and you pick them up and put them on a jeep and head back to headquarters where you can get them into a what we call the hospitals then, but they were just tents that something like a MASH unit, you know. And the doctors then would take over and check their injuries, and then you would just go back and start your old routine again. Join your outfit.
I just want to read what your citation says.
Yeah.
It says that PFC Ralph Martire, fully aware of a sniper-infested street, together with one other man, exposed himself to direct
Right.
small arms fire and drove to an outpost position, knowing that it was under constant mortar fire.
Mm-hmm.
As he arrived at the outpost shelter, an enemy shell landed, wounding 2 of the OP personnel. Disregarding his own safety and disregarding the succeeding incoming shells, he remained in the open and succeeded in bringing the wounded men into a position of safety. After an inspection of their wounds, PFC Martire, again fully aware of the danger, drove the wounded men to the aid station. So you expose yourself to enemy fire, and you
Well,
saved you saved some men that otherwise would have died at your own risk.
Yeah, but see, you say you expose yourself to enemy fire. There's enemy fire all the time. I mean, you know, you're in the front lines. There's enemy fire all the time. You don't, you can't, you try to avoid it all the time. You duck here and you duck there and you crawl here, you know what I mean? You look for shelter all the time. But in a situation like that, you don't think. You're just so concerned about the men. You want to save their lives, and that's how it happens. You know, you do what should I say? You do crazy things. I think, not realizing that you have the strength to do it. You're not hit yet. You're not, you know. So you go ahead, and you do. You try to save the poor fellow that's hit.
Were there any experiences that you had with hand-to-hand against the enemy?
Oh yeah, that was later on when we were.
Well, let's continue then. You fought out of the hedgerows.
Yeah.
And now you're did you say Cherbourg? Where did you say?
The town of Cherbourg, yeah.
Okay. And you continued
Yeah.
heading toward Germany.
Yeah.
Now, you were involved in another major battle. Maybe it was a little later, the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah. Well, that was toward the end, the Battle of the Bulge.
Okay, so before the Battle of the Bulge, take us what happened leading up to that.
Well, like I said, in Thionville, when we took the town of Thionville, that's where I think I got hit with shrapnel. In Thionville, I was saving those fellas.
Okay, so that's when you got wounded.
Yeah.
Were you taken off the line? Tell us about where did you go?
I wasn't taken off the line. I was taken off the line as far as getting my wounds taken care of. But then, as soon as I was able to walk around, get up and get on my feet, I went back to the front.
Okay.
I went back to the front. And then the town of Verdun, city of Verdun, town of Verdun, we took that, the town of Verdun.
When you say you took the town, was it a battle going
into the town, yeah.
And was it a kind of thing where you had to clear the houses?
Yeah, house-to-house fighting. Every town you went in, it was house-to-house fighting.
And talk about that a little bit. What when you say, what is that like? Each room, each building.
Each building. Really, you have to take the building. You have to you lay down on the ground. You take cover, first of all, to see where the firing is coming from, and then you start going toward that house that has the fella in there shooting at you. And you got to work where 2 or 3 guys do different things to draw the attention of the guy that's in the building, and then have one guy be able to get up close enough to throw a hand grenade in the window and knock him out, you know. Like the one time we came to this house that was full with Germans, and there was a stone wall. Our company was up against the stone wall, and we were trying to fire at them, and we were not succeeding very well. So the company commander started ordering 4 or 5 men over the wall to crawl and see how close they can get to the house. Well, the first 5 men didn't make it at all. They got shot while they were getting over the wall, and then they got shot after they were on the ground. So he'd order another 5 men. I was there on my knees praying he wouldn't call my name. But I wasn't that lucky. He called my name. So I had to go over that wall. And fortunately I got over, and I crawled I crawled past the men that were wounded already. Some of them were wounded, some were dead. So I start taking cover and crawling. And finally, I got to where the fellows that were the Germans that were in the house couldn't shoot at you because their machine gun was angled at a certain angle. So I got underneath the strafing of that machine gun and got up to the house, and I was able to throw grenades into the window and knock them out. And then the rest of the company came up and we took the house. So I don't know, maybe they say that was heroism or whatever, but it was just a job you had to do.
Did you get a Bronze Star for that?
Yeah.
Also?
Yeah. It's just something you had to do at the time. And you weren't alone doing it. It was another guy doing it with you, you know. And together we throw hand grenades in, you know. And that's the only way I can describe it. Then you go on to another area as we keep moving forward. I don't remember the towns or the small towns or anything like that. It's just that.
During this time, talk a little bit about, were you getting any letters at all? Were you mailing any letters? Did you hear anything about what was happening at home at that point?
No. No, I didn't receive any mail. I didn't receive any mail for a good 4 months. I didn't know what was going on back home.
What about food? Talk about what did you have to eat when you were doing all this?
Well, that's it. Food. We had what we had on our back, our K rations and our C rations. But there's one thing we found out, that the French people, they used to store hard-boiled eggs in jars down their cellars. And when we took these houses, first thing we'd all do was run down the cellar and get the jars of eggs, fresh eggs, and we'd open those jars and eat the eggs because they were good. But
as opposed to our
K
rations and C rations.
Well, K rations were in a box form, and you'd get a chocolate bar and some small cans of ground up eggs, you know, scrambled eggs in there, and that's what you would eat. You open the can, you'd open the can with your bayonet, and you would eat the scrambled eggs and with the slice of chocolate and a cookie. You know, it was a square cookie. But the C rations were more of like a dinner and a supper. The dinner was cheese, was a round piece of cheese, and with crackers in all of them, and then the supper was chopped meat in there, or ham or something like that, you know, with crackers and eggs and stuff, like all ground up. And that was your meal. So that's what we ate. That's all we had to eat. We never had a warm meal until, I think until we were halfway through France. That the Red Cross was able to send up a truck, you know, with warm meals, and we'd line up there and get a hot coffee and something warm to eat. The Red Cross would give it to us, and then we'd go back right back up to the front.
Your clothing, did you have changes of clothing, or?
No change of clothing at all. We wore the same clothes we started battle with.
In fact, isn't this one of your... Could you talk about what this is?
Yeah, this is the coat I had on in the Battle of the Bulge, but you can see this coat had the battle itself. But I still wear it. I wear it when I shovel snow now, you know. But this coat is, it weighs a ton. But this is what we wore in the Battle of the Bulge, because the snow was about knee deep, and we were very cold. And I just can't part with it. That's all. This coat is ready for the dump right now, but I can't part with it. It's got too many memories, because it fits me yet, and I wear it proudly out there shoveling snow. You know, it's just part of me. I can't get away from it. And so I just can't get away from it. It started to deteriorate, sleeves and all, see? But it's almost as old as I am. In fact, I think it is old as I am. I'm 86 years old, and I think this coat might be a little older than me. But I love it. It brings back memories all the time.
In a minute, we're going to look around the room, and I want you to point out some of the things. I notice you have your uniform here, the weapon you carry, and so forth. We'll talk about those in a minute, but let's continue now. We're leading up to the Battle of the Bulge. Where were you when that event took place?
That's hard to remember.
You don't remember what town, what area you were in?
No.
Okay, well, talk about the first time what happened here?
We were in Bastogne, I know. We were in Bastogne. And it's something I never even concentrated on. It's a lot of, we were so covered with snow and so cold that there wasn't much fighting going on in the beginning. But we were taken, there was a bunch of us there. There was, we had mixed outfits in there, and we were taken by surprise. These Germans came, as I remember, they were speaking English and they were dressed in American uniforms. So we didn't think they were the enemy. And they took us by surprise, and they had us lined up. And we thought that the Germans were going to be taking us to a prison camp when we saw their trucks backing up toward us. But then when they threw the flaps up, we saw the machine guns. Two Germans manning the machine guns, and they started a fire at us. So when they started a fire at us, myself and another fellow threw ourselves down the hill. We were running like on top of a hill, and we threw and rolled down the hill. We rolled quite a ways, and we were all covered with snow, and we just stayed there. We didn't move. They didn't come after us because the American troops were coming in, you know, and so they took off, and the American troops that came in, when we heard them, that's when we uncovered ourselves from the snow, and we joined them and got to our outfit again. But that's the experience of that one. The battle itself was a big battle. It was a lot of firing, a lot of mortar fire, a lot of cannon fire. snow flying all over the place. And I don't know.
Did you end up in personal, any personal contact with?
Yeah, I did it one time at hand-to-hand combat. I can't think of the town we were coming into, but I came across this young German. I overtook him. I hit him with the rifle, and he fell down. And I was going to bayonet him when he start calling for his mother. He started going, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And I knelt down next to him, and I says to him, "You speak English?" And he says, "Yes." I says, "Why are you calling for your mother?" He says, "I don't want to die." He says, "I want my mommy." I said, "All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to put this bayonet between your arm and your chest. I'm going to make it look like I stabbed you. Pretend you're dead when I move away from you." "Okay," he said, "okay." And I did it, and it's up till today, I don't know if he's been alive or what, you know what I mean? Because we had other soldiers, and if he made any move at all, while the other soldiers came up, he would have got killed, because they would have finished him off, figuring he didn't get it when he, you know, with the first wave of soldiers killed. So, till today, I don't know if he's alive or not, or if he lived, you know, as long as I have. I know he was younger than me. He was about 16 or 17, I think. So he may not be alive today. But that's the only time I really came face to face with a German youth. That's what he was. He was a German youth. And after that, it was more house-to-house fighting. As you took a town, it was house-to-house.
And this continued?
All the way through.
All the way through?
All the way through. If you follow the battle route of the 90th Division, you'll see the towns. It's hard for me to remember the towns, but there's another town, Wyden, I remember we took. You know, there's so many towns, it's hard to remember them.
Do you remember eventually when you crossed into Germany? Did you recall that?
Yeah, we went through Frankfurt, Germany. Yeah, we went through Frankfurt, and then we went through Nuremberg, Naburg, Germany. We took those towns, and then we occupied Naburg, Germany.
Didn't you also see one of the death camps? Can you talk about that experience?
Well, yes, we went into Dachau. Dachau. We went to Dachau, and we had to clean out the camps. We had to scrape out the ovens with skeletons in there, and pile up the dead bodies. And we had the French people help us do it, you know, and the German soldiers that we took prisoner. We had them pile up the all the dead people, and there were so many dead people in there. It was really sickening. They were just piled on top of one another anyway, because the Germans used to, when they died, they piled them up. That's all they did, was just pile them up. There were piles and piles of them. So we had to transport them all out of there to a cemetery that they dug these big graves, you know, just one big unit. And they would bulldoze it and then bulldoze the people in there with the bulldozers. They didn't get individual burials because they were all mixed. There were French people in there, there were Jewish people, there were Americans in there, there were Germans in there, there were prisoners. They were all just mixed people. It's a big shame, big shame. We couldn't get over it. In fact, I couldn't get over it. I kept seeing those people for years. Till finally, I think I don't know. There were times I even threw up.
When the war ended, then you were in Nuremberg, Germany. When the war ended.
Yeah, Naburg. Nuremberg and Naburg.
Did it come across as the announcement that the war is over?
Yeah, right.
And now what happens to you at that point?
Well, we stayed in Naburg, and we occupied Naburg, and we had to set up like a table at the street, the border lines, you know, and we'd see these guys come walking by. They could be German soldiers dressed in civilian clothes, and we'd strip them of their identity to see who they are. And if they're German soldiers, then we put them aside. But if they're civilians, we let them go. So we had to do that in Naburg.
A town, a lot of damage, a lot of buildings damaged.
Buildings were blown apart because the Air Force comes over and drops bombs, you know.
Were you staying in a home? Were you still sleeping outside?
Well, in Naburg, we took over a hotel. And what we did was we set certain room off for the headquarters company, office and so forth, and the men would sleep upstairs or across the street in the other part of the hotel, you know. But we took over this hotel in Naburg. I don't know what they called it, but we had a sign out there saying verboten. That meant forbidden, you know, for anybody else but the American soldiers.
And then from there, did they give you R&R? Where did you go from there? Did they give you R&R to go to France?
Well, yeah, we were stationed then in Naburg, Germany, and they sent us to Paris, and then they sent us to Marseille. And Marseille was the last trip I took. That's in September.
I'm going to point the camera to the picture you have on the wall, and you can just point out this is you in Marseille, isn't it?
Oh.
And it says on it, September 45?
Yeah, that says September 45. That's walking down one of the streets in Marseille.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's another soldier behind me. And I always say, if you look at the expression on my face, you'll see it says, "Don't fuss with me," because I used a different word. But now I'm just saying, "Don't fool with me." You know? That's the expression I have on my face.
Now I'm also going over to the picture which shows your the medals that you received.
Up there, yeah. That's me dressed in uniform. And the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, D-Day landing, the victory, the World War II victory medal, the Verdun medal for taking the town of Verdun, D-Day landing, German occupation, and the good conduct. I got to get that one in there, good conduct medal. And then the expert rifle and bayonet man and marksman. And that's the rifle for infantry.
And now I'm looking at the picture of memories from the front. Is that you in the middle holding the dog?
That's me in the middle there. And the dog I'm holding is the only reason I'm holding him. We just took that little town. I don't know what the town was now, but he was eating a dead German's foot. And I took him away from that. I didn't want him to eat that German's foot. I couldn't take him with me though. I had to let him go. He was a good little boy.
Let's go over to...
this is me standing at a pillbox that we just took.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, right there. And this is me riding a horse in Naburg, Germany. I had my own horse then.
Okay.
And this is in Camp Arkley. That I met a fella, Bridgewater, in France. And here's training here with a bayonet and rifle in Camp Arkley. And this is on our ship on the way back home. I'm feeding Fatso. I called him that. He was, you know, and these were some of the fellas that were in me. Some of them, they're buried in France. And here I'm standing by a pillbox we just took.
Can you point out the weapons that you brought back?
Yeah, I got the German Luger over there, and my M1 rifle with the bayonet right there, the bottom one, and the saber in the middle was a German officer saber. And that's my M1 rifle there.
And I also noticed that there, on another wall here, you have your uniform. I'm going to go over to that.
Oh, yeah.
And was that the actual uniform that you wore?
Yeah, that's the uniform. They called it the Eisenhower jacket. They did away with the long jacket.
And it has all your, also all your ribbons on
Yeah,
it?
it has the ribbons from the medals, yeah. Yeah, and the hats and whatever.
Okay. All right. And let's finish up with a few more questions. So why don't we go sit back down? And this, I would like to get a picture of this bust too, of you. Who did that?
I don't remember the company. It's a company in Illinois. You want me to hold it up or what?
No, I
get the
got it.
writing.
Yeah. Okay. Just a few more questions. If you could sit back down. Oh, I'm caught here. Okay,
yeah.
I'm caught here. All right. Okay, so now the war's over. You were from Marseille. You came back on the ship to where did you
Camp
land?
Kilmer, New Jersey.
In New Jersey, and you called home and got some devastating news. Tell us about that.
Well, when I called home, I was talking to my sister, and then we talked for a little bit, you know. I was in a phone booth in Camp Kilmer. And I says to her, I said hello to my father, because he didn't speak English at all, my father. So then I told my sister to put my mother on the phone. And when I told her that, she says, "You didn't get the news?" I says, "No, what news?" She says, "Well, Mom passed away." I says, "Well, I didn't get the news. I was never notified." So I asked when did she die, and they said she died in October. And that's when I came home, in October. So I just missed her. But that was a blow. I put my fist through the window of the phone booth. I broke the window because I didn't like the news I got, that's all.
Come back home. Tell us about what did you do getting reacclimated, and what did you do as far as a job and so forth once you were
Yeah, well, once I got home, I took a job at Underwood Corporation, and then from Underwood I went to Vitramon, which was making the capacitors for the missiles. So after Vitramon, I got bored there because there was nothing else I could do, because they made me a foreman there, and I got the production. I got the production going, and I got quality control, you know. There was nothing else I could do. So I was 38 years old, and I decided to go back to school. I went to embalming college in New York, McAllister School of Embalming, and I had to go 3 years there for that. So while I went to school, I took a job at AFCO at night time, and I went to work at 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I would catch the 7:10 train out of Stratford to New York to be at college at 9 o'clock. And I did that for 3 years. I graduated McAllister School of Embalming. Then I had to go up to the state board, take a state board exam, and luckily I passed that. So I got my embalmer's license, and when I got my embalmer's license, I had to serve apprenticeship, and I served it with the Louis Abriola funeral home. But when I got my license, I called the school, because the rest of my class, they were all New Yorkers and New Jersey students. So I told the dean that I passed my state board. So he was very happy to hear that, and he said, would I be glad to, would I want to come into New York to give a lecture to the class? He says, because they're taking you know, what do you call it, to
studying the history of the war?
No, to rehearse refresher course, you know, because they didn't take their state boards in New York and New Jersey. So I says, I'll be glad to. So I went into New York, and I stepped up in front of my old class, you know, and I says, what's your problem, you know? why are you taking a refresher course? I says, if a dummy like me could pass the state board, I says, you guys, you're all kids, you should be able to pass it. Because they were all just out of high school. So they cheered and yelled, and I says, all right, any questions for you? You know, you got any questions? Ask me. And they asked how the test was and what was on it. And I says, well, you know, Connecticut is probably different than New York and New Jersey. I says, so, but I imagine the same thing will be on there. I says, study those things, and I think you'll make it. So I found out after that they all did pass their state boards, and they thanked me for it.
So you were older.
I was 38 years old.
38 years old. You didn't use the GI Bill.
No, I didn't use the GI Bill. I really didn't know anything about the GI Bill, really, when I came out. And I even mentioned it later on, that I said, you know, I should have taken advantage of that when I was able to, huh? Didn't I mention it? And I says, maybe I should have gone to become a lawyer or a doctor or something, you know. But the embalming, I paid for myself, you know, paid for it myself. And so I took the shortest thing. I was thinking of being either a doctor or a lawyer, but it was too long, you know, going to school. So I didn't, you know,
Your military experience, which is quite extensive, do you still think about your experiences? How did they affect your life and as you are now? And do you still think about that?
I still think about it. I still think about it a lot. I wake up at night sometimes. I don't like to talk about it. That's all trouble. My family gives me hell because I don't tell them anything. But I can't help it.
Did you join any organization, veteran organization? You mentioned you never talked about your experience, but you never joined any other groups?
No. No, they wanted me to join the VFW, but because I remember they had the VFW at one of my birthday parties, right? And they gave me a lifetime membership, I guess. But I never, because I don't go and sit down and drink beer and, you know, talk things about different things, and I don't do that. So I never went. I could have gone to the VFW right here in Stratford.
And finally, is there anything that we've left out of this interview that you would, you know, want to add?
Well, the only thing is, I'm very proud that I was able to do what I did to help out this country as much as I did, if I did. And I'm proud of all the veterans that served with me. All the veterans that didn't come home, they're the heroes. As far as I'm concerned, I was just part of them, but they're the heroes. I'm not. I came home. That's all I could say, I guess.